Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with Reuvian Bacal and Jon Bacal. These two are related. Actually, both these gentlemen have been my mentors, and I've actually been able to be a student of them as well as also been able to coach them. We've also become great friends, and every time I get an opportunity to share space, something magical happens. The way we interact with each other is right at our edges. I don't know how many of you out there have people in your life that are not yes men, that are people that you can go to and that will call it out, will name it. And in that naming, for me, I experience a great deep pleasure and resourcefulness because I'm in an interaction where I feel really self-empowered and I feel very supported. And I'm able to look at things from a whole lot of different perspectives, not just their perspective, but the container we create is very, very vast. And I think this conversation today that we're going to get into is going to be vast, along with, if you have your notepad handy, take some notes. I believe there's going to be some nuggets of wisdom to be mined from the conversation, the stories that will be shared today. So tune in for a brief conversation here, and then there'll be more to follow because there's always just so much meat when the three of us get together. So I wanted to introduce Reuvian Bacal, who leads men's groups here in Boulder, Colorado, with his Evolutionary Men's Tribe. I'm not sure if it's evolved since, but it's always evolving because it's an evolutionary work that you do. And then Jon is involved with the organization called Bridge Makers, which is around taking the voice of the youth to our mistakes that we've made in my generation, the generations before. And I believe these two gentlemen in this conversation today will probably have a tremendous impact on your life as well. So maybe Reuvian, tell us a little bit about what you're up to today in the world, and then as well, Jon, then share afterwards, and then we can kind of backtrack in time and get maybe a better understanding of how you remarkable individuals got this way, got to here, and this clarity of purpose.
Yeah, good. Well, first of all, Glenn, thanks for having me and Jon on your podcast. It's fun to get to be here with you.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I think I just progressed in my journey mostly from living in my values, which come from, the way I understand it, comes from our voids, meaning what we perceive as missing becomes important to us, and that becomes our values. And then we live our values. If we're healthy, we're living in our values. And that just has led me one step after the next to pursue consciousness, growth, and development, which is my highest value in life. And so led me to study, become trained as a psychotherapist, and then evolve into evolutionary life coaching and helping men evolve with each other, helping each other see our blind spots so that we can, and our brilliance, our greatness, so that we can live our best life. So that's what I'm up to. And I tend to learn a lot through challenges, falling down and getting into difficult, challenging experiences and having to learn my way through. So recently just completed a 17-year marriage and learned a lot from what I was doing there and the ways that I was asleep at the wheel, in some little siloed off parts of my being. And that's a lot of what my work with men and coaching clients is about, is helping identify where we're asleep to ourselves, where we're running on unconscious old conditioning, mapping that out, waking up out of that, and finding out who am I really, and what is my true self, my true life, and applying the tools to live that really fully. So that's a little bit about my journey in the broad strokes and what I'm doing now.
And I think that also who you are is very fierce in going after the confronting aspects of one's life. You fiercely go forth and go, this is the area that I actually swim best in, and you lean in with men on this part of themselves that they are in some way aware, but they're not. They need to be, in a certain sense, shook up. Maybe not necessarily waking up, but brought attention there. You're not afraid to go there, where I think when you have your friends in your community that are used to being supportive in certain ways, but they're not necessarily ready to go out there and kick this can all the way down the road.
Yeah, what I would want listeners, or just everybody in life, and men in particular, to ask yourself is, who's got my back?
Who's got my back?
Who's got my back to help me see what I don't see? We all have a lot of blind spots. And who's got your back helping you see what you don't see? Helping you see how you're living in some unconscious ways that are outside of your awareness, because it's the water that you swim in. Who's got your back? Who's watching you? Who's giving you feedback? Who's penetrating through your conditioning and calling shit out, and being ruthless and fierce with you, so that you can live your highest good and truth, not live your old conditioning that you came into life with.
Great. Well said. I try to add something to that, but all I can think of is that there's a lot of years wasted by not doing work.
Years, time, energy, money. I mean, everything. There's a lot of waste and inefficiency in living out old patterns and conditioning, rather than living from your highest true self and inspiration. A lot of us are living from injected values, or just unclarity about what's my purpose? What am I here for? What is my mission in this lifetime? What am I here to learn? What's my curriculum? A lot of us are maybe not even asking that question, or if we are, we maybe are so unconsciously bogged down in our old ways of being that we're not fiercely living the truth of the mission of what we're here for and what we're here to learn. So that's what I'm most inspired about in working with people, is to just pretty fiercely and ruthlessly, kind of like using that word, cutting through and saying, look what you're doing, look how you're living, look what's going on. Are you aware of that? Are you aware that this is what you're doing and creating? Are you aware of what you're thinking, the distortions of your thoughts and perceptions? And let's wake up to that and see what happens when you change the way you perceive and think. What does that make possible for you to do and be? And how that can change the quality of your relationship, the quality of you bringing your gifts into the world and making money and everything. So that's what lights me up when working with people.
Yeah. The only other last thing I would say is and also just, aside from how you show up and what you bring, how you feel in your experience, how you walk in the world. I know from the work we've done, there's a greater sense of resourcefulness and self-trust that emanates out to the world, and it has that share. But what a beautiful way to experience the world free from your conditioning.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what we're all here for, is to live our true life. And our true life is not our conditioned self. Our true life exists underneath that, as far as I'm concerned. And so, when we're living, the more we're living in connection with an expression of who we really are, I think the better we feel, the more uplifted, inspired, fulfilled, and the better we give our greatest gifts into the world.
Great. Thank you, Reuvian. Awesome. Jon, so brother Jon, maybe you could top that, so which you will.
I can't top my younger brother, and I just have to say how inspired and appreciative I am of Reuvian and what he just shared with all of us. So I'm just feeling that appreciation right now, and appreciating you, Glenn. We've been on a journey together for almost 3 years now. Uh, I am growing and attempting and enjoying living into my purpose in the world, which is to help bridge the gap between the most marginalized young people in America and life-changing opportunities for mentorship, leadership, and lifelong purpose. And that that sort of path started to unfold for me in my teen years. But the clarity has sharpened dramatically in the last half decade. So, just a little background. I've been in the world of education and youth development my whole career, 3 decades, in different and creative ways. You could call me a social entrepreneur in the field of education and learning. And that is a field and a world that has come from a very challenging place of an industrial factory model developed over the past century and more. It's a relic of a time that viewed human beings very differently. And that is the legacy system and mindset that is still with us for almost everybody. And so what Reuvian was saying about, we need to uncover our own truths individually and together is very, very much true about the world of schools and the world of assumptions about young people. For me, I've come to more deeply appreciate the genius, the imagination and the courage of young people, particularly those who have the least in our country. And I feel very, very privileged that about a half decade ago, I met one young man who at that time was an 8th grader in a school that I started and directed, Walter Cortina, who hopefully you'll be interviewing soon, who helped me begin to understand more deeply that genius of not just him, but of his generation in helping us as a people, as a society, move to the place we need to be, to systems and institutions and environments and settings that really help young people and all people uncover their values and their purpose for life.
It's inspiring, Jon. Just what you're up to and how devoted and committed you are to seeing and supporting young people to live in their greatness.
Well, I think yeah, thank you, Jon. Yeah, thank you, Reuvian, for pointing that out. I'd like to, at this time, have each of you share a little bit about, who you were, what you were seeing through your eyes as a youngster. If you can kind of go back in time and see what type of person, you were back then. Were you the straight A student or the rebel that, rebelled against the box? Just some things just felt off or not right. But maybe there were some, I don't like to say pivotal moments, but were there some things that gave you a nudge in this direction? And then maybe leading that to maybe sharing one of your great accomplishments recently, and that, in order to accomplish this feet, it wasn't as clean as it might appear, all shiny on the outside. That one of these great accomplishments of yours that you've been privy to has required a strength of character, an endurance, a vision that you had to hold steadfast with. And maybe sharing that gives us an idea of the work you're doing in the world. And then we'll wrap up this call today with giving everybody a access point to how to get a hold of you, where they can look up and learn more and connect with you guys. Okay,
let's do it. I'll jump in there. Yeah, as a young person, I was very, very dissociated, meaning I was just gone, not present, checked out, because I was just suffering with a lot of developmental trauma that had me not there. And I was really just wandered through my childhood like pretty checked out. And that actually conditioned me to become and do what I have become and have done. And because I had such a perception of lacking connectedness with myself and with life, that I came to really value connection with self and others and truth and life and nature. And so that really sent me off in the direction towards self-discovery and helping people discover themselves and growth and development, because that's what I felt so lacking in my own experience. And then it led me to have this vision, this longing to live, to create a land-based community where people are learning and growing and evolving together. And that's what I ended up doing. Outside of Boulder, Colorado here, I bought a 4-acre property, and that we visioned for this purpose, for gathering community together to grow and heal and evolve and awaken together. And so for the last 9 years, I developed that place and created a rich community network of people coming to our land all the time for these purposes, for psychedelic medicine work, for men's evolutionary group work, for women's work was happening there, rituals, ceremonies, community gatherings of all kinds, and just really living my deepest purpose of empowering people to raise consciousness and live more awake and free. So it really all came out of the experiences of what was missing, or what I perceived as missing in my early life, and the pain of that created this impetus to value what I value and have develop a purpose that I developed, so that I could manifest that purpose in service to other people. I don't know if that's a little too vague, but that's the overarching kind of choreography of what happened to me and where it took me.
Yeah, I mean, having been on that land and met hundreds of incredible women and men, and heard stories shared, and just coming in with having been someone uniquely had his purpose, but got off track for a blip, and then came fiercely into my purpose and got clarity. The work that's been done on that land, that magical land that I've always been there, and your hands are in the soil, and your hands are in the trenches with each individual that you come in contact with. The impact has been enormous, exponential in my life, and just witnessing how when we connect with nature, and when we connect in a certain sense with universal laws and our highest self, so much magic happens around a fire pit in the work that you do. I can't put to words. this is one of those times where the work that I've done with you, Reuvian, I can't put to words. It's been, all I can say is impact of my life and impact in anybody who comes in contact with me thus far, since that work. I stopped contributing harm into the world unconsciously.
That's a huge gain. Yeah. One of the things that I love about group work and men's group work is that there's this exponential catalytic learning and growth that happens because there's so much social learning from each other, witnessing people model different ways of being and different ways of handling things and growing and moving through challenges. And it's a safe practice laboratory to try on those new ways of being right there in this community, in this space, and get reflections, feedback, challenge, support, accountability. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable and sometimes it feels really good. But it's such a dynamic learning and growth cauldron. And sitting around by the fire and doing that work together and feeling that interconnectedness and wholeness from the earth and from the group and that tribal kind of experience and helping each other just like wake up out of our sleepy places and just like be here and be awake and alive and feel the goodness of life and give our greatest gifts. That's what I love to do.
Love it. Yeah, like I said, you're a beautiful, soulful being that's come here for a very high purpose. And yeah, I hope there's many more years of your work to continue, that you continue to vibrate at this high level, because I don't know, anyone who comes in contact with you can't help but be lifted up to another level of awakening and doing our own individual work, getting clear on that. The reflections I experience when I hang out with you, it's a mirror. And when I've hung out in tribe, this man speaking and, oh, I've got that too. That's me as well. So the work is, it's not like, has never ever been where I'm over here going, what's that about? It's like, oh, it's very sticky inside me as well. So
it's like that for me too as a facilitator. Just because I'm the leader facilitator, it doesn't mean that I'm outside of all those challenges and things that everybody else is feeling and dealing with. Like I have that too. And like when I was younger, I had this kind of more romantic notion of I want to wake up, and become enlightened, and all that sort of stuff, and didn't realize what's involved in that and like how rugged the journey is in that direction. Because you're not just waking up to all some kinds of yummy feel-good stuff. You mostly maybe even waking up to like some pretty gnarly shit, that, and things about, well, I'll speak in the first person, things about myself that I don't like seeing also. And it's very humbling and intimidating lots of times to face all the little nooks and crannies and all the things that I don't like about myself or I wish were different, or there's just so much to wake up to and then have compassion for in myself. And the more I do that work, the more I have bigger and bigger space and compassion for an understanding of others, because like I find that in me. I'm not, like you said, I'm not separate from that. It's like we have all of the traits, all of them, including the genius, brilliant traits, and all the other ones too.
Shameful, humbling. Yeah.
Oh man, such a journey to become more awake to ourselves. It's not for the faint-hearted, It's like,
yeah. I often get requests from people saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a men's group. Can you point me in the right direction?" And if it's the individual saying, "Hey, this is what I want to do," then I point them in the right direction. And then if it's a mother or someone's like, "Hey, this would be really great. Should be a fun thing for a nice, nice ride for my son," I'm often checking in on, well, where are they at right now? Because this is, this process is messy. This is, though it's great community, great community comes from doing your work, doing your part, participating, showing up for others as well too. That's a lesson to learn. I have coming in here for just myself, and it's like trying to wake up to it's not all about you.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's hear from Jon.
Yeah.
Well, my early years have some parallels with Reuvian's, not a surprise since we grew up in the same home. I remember a childhood that maybe didn't look like a lot of other childhoods. For example, I don't really remember a real sense of a play with other young people, and I don't remember a sense of fun, although it must have been there. And I don't remember feeling unhappy, but I was a pretty socially awkward and isolated young person. And not particularly excited about school either, although I remember it being boring and not really wanting to go. But a key pivotal moment was at 13. Backing up, I was a big reader, and by 11 or 12, I gained a sense of history, a sense that there was a big world out there that I knew through books, and that I wanted to shape history. I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to matter. And I didn't know how, though. And then at 13, a teacher invited me, this very quiet, socially awkward kid, to enter a public speaking competition outside of school. And I remember that night like it was yesterday, November 4th, 1979, 42 years ago. I prepared and read, gave a speech called Our Challenge in the 80s, Solving World Hunger, that I had written myself. And I went back recently, and I was pretty impressed at how well written and good that powerful that talk was. But for the first time, I felt seen and heard. I felt powerful, like I could matter. I could make a difference, and that set me off to a lot of interesting things, to a passion for, history and politics and government and having a social impact, being a social entrepreneur. And I went off after college to spend 25 years as a change agent in the field of education. I got my start just after the revolutions of 1989. I went over to Czechoslovakia and put together a American history class with the students being the young people that helped lead the revolution over there. That was a powerful experience and connected me further to the sort of big ideas of democracy and America that I had read about, but in a real visceral way. And then that set me off to trying to make a difference in American education by designing and creating innovative schools, serving marginalized young Black, Latino, and other low-income people. And I was pretty good at it, I thought. at least at the technical aspects, and am pretty increasingly confident in my skills and status and self-image. Um, uh, but that world was punctured and challenged in an important way a few years ago when I met that young man, Walter Cortina. Um, he he was reaching out. He had just lost both of his parents. They were deported, and he was homeless and struggling and working hard to support his family. And I was trying to recruit him to the leadership activities that I felt were important to him. We adults in education know best for what young people need. We have a great sense of confidence, not all of it really earned, but that's what drives the system. And Walter asked me in one of our earlier conversations, "Are you tokenizing me?" And I had never been asked that, and certainly not by a young person. Um, uh, and I had to admit that in some ways I was using him and other young people for the purpose of elevating the school and for their own benefit, I felt. But that was being able to be challenged and taking that in set me on a path away from school leadership as my professional calling to elevating the voices and genius and leadership of under-resourced, of marginalized young people as my true lifelong purpose. And I left that world of adult school leadership a few years ago in partnership with Walter to help support him and his colleagues, his amazing colleagues, in their work to help reimagine America and education. One pivotal experience, these young people a couple of years ago when they lost their jobs supporting their families at the beginning of the pandemic, they discovered, unlike other jobless workers, they weren't eligible for benefits because they were in high school. And over the next year, they overturned the state law, sued the state, won $30 million for 20,000 Minnesota workers on a bipartisan basis. It had never been done before anywhere in the country, as far as we can tell, that kind of campaign. And it's such a blessing and honor to be mentored by them and to be a resource to them. And it was very powerful to bring some of them out to Colorado last fall to connect with you gentlemen, Glenn and Reuvian, in the awesome splendor of the natural beauty of the mountains of Colorado. But we feel we're very much, and I'm very much at the beginning of my purposeful journey, and it's there's something all human beings have a desire to leave a legacy, to be generative and to contribute. That's just indigenous peoples around the world believe that's really the center of their wisdom and of healthy use development. It's not part of how traditionally we raise young people in this country, but a sense of purpose is at the heart of how we need to heal and reimagine And that's the work that the organization and the initiative, the movement that these young people, Walter and Cole and a whole team of people based in Minnesota, are leading right now. And it's exciting and breaking new ground every day. It's like exploring another planet. To see young people in executive roles and decision making, and helping engaging adults who leaders as accomplices in this work is incredibly inspiring.
Well, I really appreciate you, John, as a light, and I know my experience of you has always been you really set the stage. Both of you are container people. You set containers, but John, you really set a container. You'll never see you speaking when the kids are in the room. You're always behind the scenes, almost like on the wall, and though your voice comes through and the expression and the way that these young individuals, extraordinary young individuals, are able to articulate this imagination. I'm curious for both of you as we kind of wrap up today, what your wish, you both have very strong purposes, but what is your wish for, even the individual viewer right now? What would be your wish for one to look within themselves and start to find that hell yes, and what they can contribute to the world and stay in alignment with what has historically been a way of living that's in alignment with nature. What would be your biggest wish for our viewers to really get in touch with and just start accessing and go for it and not care about the conformities of society?
You can go ahead, John.
So I've thought a lot about this, Glenn, recently, and if you have a desire to leave a legacy, to have an impact on the world, beyond even your own family, as important as that is, one way that you can do that and make a massive contribution is to find a young person, or more than one, but start with one, who may not have had all the advantages economically or otherwise that maybe you had or have had in your life, and but where you share some connection with, even if it doesn't seem that way on paper, and that can be life-changing for you, for that young person, and for the world. Mentorship, what scientists and practitioners call developmental relationships, are really the heart of human development and youth development. And but those are relatively rare and increasingly rare. And there's so many young people that if you took them out to lunch and listened and encouraged, could that experience and that relationship could be life-changing to you in helping to clarify your purpose, and to another human being, and perhaps on a much larger scale. And that's what I experienced.
So I'm hearing is each of us has an opportunity to seed a new way, a new world by just simply giving back. Maybe it's the thing you didn't get.
That's right. I think for me, it was something that as a young person I didn't get or didn't know how to seek out. And I have had mentors. The most important mentor before Walter, this young man, was actually a man in the final year of his life. I didn't even think of him or call him as a mentor at the time, but he made a decision after a lifetime of massive contributions to the community. He somehow sought me out and encouraged me to create the school where I was able to connect with Walter. And he was juggling chemo and radiation treatments and eventually hospice. And he was in his final year. I didn't know that or wasn't conscious of that. And that was that experience. I was 45, he was 87. That was incredibly pivotal. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a very young person. It could be just somebody who you see as somebody who can help contribute to the planet in different ways.
Yeah, if only we can just do that, even in our closest spheres. There might be someone, just without having to go out and hunt down some individual, that in our sphere of influence, there are people that we can give back to.
And I'd say the key word, and Reuvian and I have a grandmother who's going to be 104.
Right, that's
in a
wild.
couple of months. And the key word, if I were to use one word to describe her essence, it is encouragement. And that's a powerful value I know I want to manifest more and encourage to others.
Now, just for the sake of time, Jon, how would people get a hold of you or get informed? Where can they look into what you're up to in the world and this mission, and maybe even contribute in some way?
Absolutely, we'd love to connect. Bridgemakersmn.org is our website. The name of the organization is Bridgemakers, all one word, spelled like it sounds. And you can reach me, JONBACAL. You can Google me, lots will come up, most of it good. And send me an email, jbacal@comcast.net. But I'm pretty easy to find.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jon. And hey, everybody, don't be shy. Reach out and connect with Jon. And I'm just so happy to have you here today, and we'll have you back for more conversations. Maybe even when I have Walter and some of the gang on here as well, it'd be great. I know you'll be in the background. And maybe the same, Reuvian, if you could share that wish as well, and then how folks can get a hold of you as well and connect.
Yeah. My want for people is to come to recognize what their values are, what's most meaningful and important to you, and your life. What is your life's purpose? What are you doing here on the planet? What's your evolutionary assignment? What's your curriculum? These are all ways for me of saying the same thing. What are you here to do and be? To identify that and then live that as potently, as robustly as you can. Because to my understanding experience, that's going to be most uplifting and fulfilling for you. And it's also going to make it be that you deliver your best gifts in service to this world. So I think Jon and I have the same ultimate orientation and want is for people to serve life, to contribute, to give back, to be of benefit, to be useful and helpful. And my experience shows me that the way we best do that is to discover ourselves and then be our fullest self in the world, including living our unique purpose. That ends up being best for everyone. It's like in a traditional society, let's say, like, this guy's the best arrow maker to bring home the meat to feed the community. This guy's the best warrior and fighter, and we need him. This one makes the best thatch houses and to keep us dry, and and so on. And this woman is the best one for finding water. And it's like, find your unique gifts and deliver that into life, in service to people, and you will feel inspired, fulfilled, uplifted, and everyone will benefit. That's what I want for all of us.
And then for you, Jon used, if he can be more encouraging in the world, what's your word?
I would say awake. Really want people to be awake and free, awake to who they are and their gifts, and free from conditioning that makes us suffer and unduly limits us. I want people to be awake and free, so that you can live your best life and make your best contribution to others. So that's what I like to help people with. That just lights me up like nothing else.
True. How do we get a hold of you? How do we find you, Reuvian?
Yes, my website is my name, ReuvianBacal.com. So that's ReuvianBacal.com. And there you can find my evolutionary coaching work and my men's group work and everything else.
Great. Well, I just want
to be happy to serve anyone that I can.
Always a beautiful conversation. Just so appreciate to have you guys here. I want to invite you guys back for another conversation at some point, because there's just so much further we can go beneath this conversation here. But I just want to say thank you guys for being here. Thank you everybody for listening in, and yeah, tune in for the next episode. But what a great call today.
Thanks for having us, Glenn. Good to be here.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Okay. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.